This is Punk Rock and Politics, and today is February 21st, 2017, and this is episode number 9. Oh, okay, let's do this.
These days are strange, it's true.
I would bomb the shit out of them.
If you think that punk rock doesn't mix with politics, you're wrong.
Welcome to Punk Rock and Politics. Today we're talking to Jeff Strong from the band All the Rage about the Las Vegas music scene, President Trump, and guns. Also, we have a new segment we'll be introducing at the end of the broadcast titled Open Mic's Last Call, where I'll talk about the podcast, where we've been, and where we're going. So let's get to the political mosh pit. But first, here's the news of the week.
Here's what's making news.
Quiet. Chiggy lied about it. Now that's what I call a nice question.
General Michael Flynn resigned as Trump's national security advisor due to the fact that he had communications with the Russians during the campaign and lied about it to Vice President Pence. Trump's replacement, Robert S. Howard, turned down the job, while the White House insists that everything is running smoothly. Trump's latest pick is General H.R. McMaster. Thursday afternoon, President Trump held an hour-long press conference where he berated the press and gave false information on his electoral college margin, claiming it was the largest margin since Ronald Reagan, although Obama received 332 electoral votes and in 2008 he won 365 electoral votes. Both margins were larger than Trump's victory. On Monday, President's Day, thousands of people protested across the country as a "Not My President" protest in regards to the Trump's presidency. And on this day in rock history, February 21st, 1970, Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Waters entered the UK album chart at number 1, where it would stay for 12 consecutive weeks. And that's the news of the week. All the Rage is a pop-punk band from Las Vegas, Nevada. The band's comprised of Jeff and Emily Strong, a brother-sister duo who rock out on their debut album, Everything I Couldn't Tell You. All the Rage may be new to the scene, but they're jumping in headfirst and they promise not to disappoint. We were able to catch up with Jeff for an interview, but first, let's check out one of their songs. This is Alley by All the Rage.
That her actions and her words drive me
and that was Alley by All the Rage. And I actually have Jeff Strong, the lead singer and guitarist from All the Rage. Hey, what's up, Jeff?
How you doing, Michael? It's good to see you.
Good. Thanks for coming
Good
on.
to talk to you, Red.
Yeah, right. Thanks for coming on Punk Rock and Politics.
It's my pleasure, really.
Yeah, definitely. I found you guys online. I liked your music. You guys kind of had an interesting feel. It's theatrical. The music I felt. It was very. It's punk, but it also has a different vibe. So, what do you think? What's some of your other influences?
Well, it's funny that you actually mentioned theatrical because I actually I did a lot of theater growing up. As a kid and through like my high school and part of my college career. So maybe that's where some of the influences, I guess there's some subtleness that comes from like musical theater land. So maybe there's something there that I never really noticed before. Yeah, I guess theatrical's fun, but we just like writing punk music. We're like, all right, let's do something in the style of because the band is it's just my sister and I. She does the drums and anytime we track anything, it's just the two of us. It's like she'll do the drums, and if she comes up with a really cool guitar part, she'll track a guitar part, and then I'll do the vocals and the other guitar and the bass. But she's super big into Blink-182 right now. Like that's her current obsession. Like she is just going to town listening to Blink.
How does she feel about like the new album versus the old albums?
I think she said she likes it, but she's been listening to like Enema of the State and Dude Ranch.
Those are the classics right there,
I know, and of course the self-titled, and I love them too. Like I think they're just great. I'm definitely and Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. That's the other one that her and I both are like, that's an awesome record.
Yeah.
But overall, like both of us have like our number one favorite band of all time is Green Day. Like that's our since as long as I can remember. I remember listening to Green Day for the first time back in 1994, like right after Dookie came out. And I remember hearing some of the songs on the radio, like Welcome to Paradise and When I'm Around and Basket Case. And, I'm a kid at the time, so I don't know exactly like what he's talking about or what he's singing about, but I just remember going, that's awesome music. And and then years later, when I was a teenager, I finally figured out like who they were. And I was like, oh, that was Green Day? Oh my God. Like I had been a fan of them for years and I didn't even know who they were because I was a kid. And my mom was like, I don't know who that is. It's just on the radio.
Yeah. You kind of heard all those singles and everything. Yeah. Green Day for me too. That was a huge influence. I think Dookie, that and Nirvana Nevermind. Those were my two first albums I actually got,
Amazing.
Yeah. So as far as real music is concerned, of course I was listening to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Rock Out of Their Shell, as how, before that, but I do have to say though, the Blink-182, the self-titled, I personally think that's just a masterpiece that Blink doesn't really get credit for. All their other stuff's fun, just generic pop punk fun, but that is an actual really, really good album. Yeah,
I'm definitely a fan of that one. That one gets on my iPod. That one makes the rotation quite a lot when I'm just driving around. I'm like, oh yeah, let's put on Always or Feeling This or Stockholm Syndrome and all that other stuff. So I'm like, these are great. They're great tracks.
Oh, dude, Stockholm Syndrome is so good. But also the thing, I always listen to that album, beginning to end. So here's the thing. How do you feel about albums? Like, do you like singles or are you an album kind of guy? What do you think?
Considering that like our record, our first, like the first full-length record, Everything I Couldn't Tell You, is more or less like it's supposed to be listened to all the way through.
Yeah.
It's not, there's not a narrative that's like winking you in the face. It's not super, super obvious that you should listen to it all the way through. But after we like finished writing some of the songs, when we put it in the order that it is now, we're like, oh, there's kind of a story in here. There's kind of a weird overarching story about like a relationship and like a breakup and what happens. And that's a lot of where I guess the inspiration comes for me as far as writing lyrics. But it was really interesting. Like, if you check out the record, it's really funny that I had, the title track is the last track on the record. It's Everything I Couldn't Tell You. And there's this thing, and they call it flying vocals. I can't remember who dubbed that term, but flying vocals is like where you have like the chorus vocals are singing, but then there's like another vocal thing happening on top, like other lyrics doing an alternate melody.
That's like classic Taking Back Sunday.
Like Taking Back Sunday,
Yeah.
Boys Like Girls, even My Chemical Romance. And it was funny, I had written like the flying vocal part for that song like way late in the process, and my sister and I were going through, and she goes, wait, what are the, like, I had tracked it, and she goes, wait, start it over, wait, go back to that part, what are you singing over it? She didn't know what I had put over it, and I showed her the lyrics. She goes, I really like those lyrics, can we put them somewhere else? Can we do like another thing and put them somewhere else? And I was like, yeah, totally. And I told, it was late or whatever, she had to get home, and I said, okay, well, I'll work on something later tonight, and then cut this little thing, like I picked up my guitar and I put the intro song to the record. It has the same lyrics that I had written for the end of the title track, and she listened to it and she goes, "That was so cool!" Like she goes, "That's how the record should start. Put this intro thing here, and then like when people listen to it all the way through, they're going to recognize like some of the musical themes in it." And I was like, "All right, cool." So it ended up working out really, really great.
It's kind of like it comes like full circle. The album.
It really does, and it was a very interesting thing for it to play out the way that it did, and I was pleasantly surprised. Like after we put it together and we listened to it all the way through, we're like, this is good. This is a cool thing, and you know we were pretty stoked on it. So we're like, hey, yeah, let's do this. Let's put it out.
So that's a little Easter egg, you know. I can go back and listen to, or anyone checking this out, if you want to, go and check out their album, All the Rage. It's Everything I Couldn't Tell You. So, but yeah, I like when artists do have little things like that and make an album whole. But so it's you and your sister who are in the band together. Have you guys always been playing music together, or is this a new thing?
This is still a pretty new thing for us. Like when I was a teenager, my parents were like, you can't have a drum kit. No one likes drummers and blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. Like they were totally cool with me doing guitar and the bass and stuff like that and singing. And I wanted to get a drum kit when I was a teenager, and my parents were like, no, you can't have a drum kit. Like the best I had was Rock Band. Like that was the video game Rock Band was like the best I could do. Yeah. They're like, all right, fine, you can have a Rock Band drum kit, and that's it. And I was like, all right. And then my sister hit her teens. She started, can't even remember, like she's had her drum kit for a couple of years now, for probably 3 or 4 years now. And I don't know like what made us decide that we were like, hey, let's do music together. It was just, we had very similar taste in music. And we actually did an EP back in September of 2015. It was 4 songs plus a bonus 5th track, like an acoustic version of one of the songs. If you bought the whole record, it was one of those like, yeah, we're cool because we do that.
That's almost required nowadays. Yeah. Is that bonus acoustic album or song?
Yeah, like the bonus acoustic track, like it has to go on there. And so actually 3 of the songs from the EP made it onto the full length record because we were like, well, these actually fit the narrative of the record, so we can throw these on there and re-record them and ramp them up a little bit. And so the EP was more for us, and like we put it out on Bandcamp, and we gave it to a couple of our friends, and we're like, well, what do you guys think? And our friends were like, yeah, you guys sound really good, like you should try this. And so we're like, hey, yeah, let's give this a shot. And then I remember it was Halloween of that same year of 2015, and we had a Halloween party at my mom and dad's house, and it was kind of the end of the night, and it was just my sister and I, and we're sitting there, and we both have our guitars, and she's like, hey, I've got this guitar riff that I want to show you. And I was like, all right. And she shows me this little riff, and I said, how long have you been sitting on this? She goes, I wrote this like 2.5 years ago. I'm like, and you're just now showing this to me? And it's funny. And so like she plays this riff, and I put some chords underneath it, and it actually ended up becoming the song Burning Bright on the record. And it wasn't until January of 2016 that we were like, let's do this. Actually, like next like 9 months or however long. And I'd made a goal for myself. I was like, I'm going to write 2 brand new songs every month. And I did that for a few months. And then we had enough material, and we were like, all right, let's make this happen. But she's a big inspiration as far as stuff too. Like she'll start a song, and then she'll pass it over to me, and she goes, do something with this. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's the best way for, music to create it. You have to bounce ideas back and forth, and, you have to have an idea and let go of it and let someone else evolve that idea.
Yeah, her and I have worked really, really together. We worked well together as a team, and we've already started. Like, even though like we put out the full length record at the end of November, and we're already like working on. We've already have material for like the next thing that we're writing. We're like, oh, she's like, why are you, she's getting mad at me a little bit though. She goes, why are you writing new stuff? And I said, because we need to constantly have new material. That's the only way that we're going to stay alive.
Well, that and also playing live. And so you guys are located in Las Vegas, in Nevada. So how is it in Nevada, the scene?
It's actually really good. Like, we're still super green as far as the scene goes. Like, we got our first invited gig in July of 2016. Like, I got some friends, I got a couple of friends who run a thing, actually you should check out too, Vegas Live Sessions. It was packed. They picked, like, the girl who books the shows, like, it was packed. I was like, that's awesome. And they're like, well, she knows how to book a show. It's like, yeah, she does.
Nice.
They do another event called Open Air Sessions, and it's at this place called the Airstream Village. And it's basically this, it's kind of a trailer park-y sort of thing. And there's like live animals that just walk around, like llamas and alpacas that just walk around. And there's this, I know, it's such a cool
That's
thing.
pretty wild.
It is. It's like, what is this? And there's a stage there with these cool little lights. And for like 2 hours, they do like an open jam session. So like anybody in the music scene or anybody who's just a musician can come in. And they sign up, and it's just like they just rotate people out. And it's like, okay, well, what do you know? Do you want to do a cover song? Do you want a free form? Like, and they just go. And then they have the featured band go on for, they'll do a 30-minute, 40-minute set, and then they'll go back to the jam session. And we actually had the honor of getting to do that on the 10th, and it was pretty fun. So we were pretty stoked on that. So we're still super, super new to the music scene, but I've made some really, really good friends in the last 8 or 9 months who I'm so inspired by these people constantly, and watching them and like see their Facebook feeds and their Twitters and their Instagrams, and they're just like, hey, we've got a show on this day, we've got a show on this day, we're releasing an EP here, we're doing this there. And it's a really, really interesting thing to see that these people that like I'm friends with like will hang out, and I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah, let's hear one more song. So this is going to be More Again, and this is off the album Everything I Couldn't Tell You. Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Well, here, let's check out More Again by All the Rage, and then we'll come back and talk to Jeff some more. Here's More Again.
You don't have to keep me in the dark when you're all alone and torn apart, and when the world becomes too much to stand. Just stay with me and take my hand. Down the coast with hope in your eyes, settled in for 3 months by the ocean side. Now you wander the desert as a compromise, so you can cry out aloud when there's nowhere to turn. But every broken heart is a lesson learned. You don't have to keep me in the dark when you're all alone and torn apart, and when the world becomes too much to stand. Just stay with me and take my hand. Just stay with me. Just stay.
Let's get to the political mosh pit. So, Jeff, we're gonna kind of touch on Trump. I know that's such a broad issue, but let's do it. So, what's up with Trump? How is it out in area? Do you see a lot of Trump stickers out there?
You know what? I don't see a lot of them. I'm not sure if it's that people have taken them off their cars, or if everybody just bought new cars because they don't. Oh no, I can't get this sticker off. I don't want to be part of this anymore. No, it's interesting. I don't always like to talk politics with my friends about stuff because I've got friends from all walks of life. I've got people who were Bernie bros, and I've got people who were all about Hillary, and I've even friends who were diehard Trump supporters that were like, "Oh man, he's so great," and all the other stuff. And so I'm glad that I have the wherewithal to not let their political stance define who they are and ruin a friendship.
Yeah, definitely.
I know
that's really important. I mean, and that's really hard. A lot of people can't do that these days.
I mean, I know I see it constantly on like my Facebook feed, especially with the people that people in Vegas were like, "Oh, if you support Trump, unfriend me," and all that. And I'm like, I don't think that's not constructive. You have to have a dialogue with people. If you want to try to convince somebody of another point of view, or if you want to make a point, you have to have a dialogue. You can't just shut it out. And I think that's the most important thing that people tend to forget. You have to have that open forum. Otherwise, you're never going to get anywhere, and you're going to butt heads until the political climate changes again. Like it's how it works.
Yeah, but it almost seems like then if the political climate does change, if we continue at the rate we're going, then if let's say 4 or 8 years from now, if a Democrat gets in office, then it'll be vice versa, and people will still be bumping heads, but it'll almost be in the opposite.
Yeah, and I noticed that like when President Obama was in the office, and there were so people that were like the one thing that I noticed that. There were a couple actual things. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's a socialist," and and he's coming after our guns. He's coming after our guns. And all those people who cried wolf, I will look at them and be like, "Still guns, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "He was never meant on take away your guns. This isn't Australia."
Yeah. Well, and he's the furthest. He's not even a socialist. He's totally a capitalist, because if you look at the Obamacare, I mean, if he was a socialist, he would implement, a single payer, Bernie Sanders, or like the rest of the world has. He wouldn't implement that corporate, totally a corporate dream, forcing people to buy health insurance.
Yeah, and people are like, "Oh, I don't want socialists. I want socialists." Like, our social, Medicare and Medicaid are definitely social programs, and so people blow my mind on stuff like that. It's like, especially like the older generation, like the people who are like 70 something, and like, "Oh my God, Obama's a socialist," and me. But it's like, you have Social Security. That's literally a social program. It's like that's the core. Social is the core root. Like that's the root, the root word. Yeah. So it's funny that hypocrisy that people will spout off. And you said the term fire, and actually, I remember this always made me laugh. Jimmy Kimmel bit where he went on the street. I don't know if you saw this. This made me laugh so hard. He had one of his people go on the street and asked, "Which do you prefer, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?" And
oh my God.
People without it, 9 times out of 10, "Oh, I prefer the Affordable Care Act." I was like, well, it's me. Well, why don't you like Obamacare? Well, it's got his name in it. It's got his name in it. And then they'll tell me actually those are the same thing. It's named for the same thing, and they're like, "Oh, really?" Egg on their face, hilarious.
I always just say Obamacare because of that, because people, they don't know. You say Affordable Care Act or ACA, and they're just
Yeah, and I'm noticing that the complete intentional ignorance that people have, they don't care. A lot of people, it seems to me, don't educate themselves on policies and procedures and what our political leaders want to do. They just, they hear it from their Aunt Trudy. It becomes it spreads like wildfire, and then all of a sudden you have so many people believing something that's what? It's half true. It's not. People don't go on Snopes or something. I remember even before political climate was kind of quiet for a while years back, and I would see people sharing the dumbest things about "Oh, be careful because this certain spider can get on an airplane, bite you while you're using the toilet," or something like that. And I was like, what is this nonsense? It's don't share it. Go on, find out if it's real first before you share it. And that's always my thing. I'll find these political articles and I'll check them out, and I'll cross-reference and say okay, what's actually happening. That's the problem with like a lot of the media too, is that you have, part of the reason I don't watch major news outlets is I mean, they're telling you what's happening, but then as soon as they put their spin on it, that's when I'm like, no, I don't want to know like what your take is on it. I just want to know like what is happening, what's going on right now. I'll make my own judgment on, oh, well, the sad thing because blah, blah, this is a good thing because blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, just tell what's happened, then I can research it and then we can go from there.
Yeah, I think the bias on both sides has just become so out of control. I think a lot of people in the mainstream, watching the mainstream media, they've noticed this bias. So they've turned to alternative media, like you said, and then they're crazy ants sharing this article from an alternative media because they're like, want something refreshing, and then they'll go and they get this... these crazy clickbait articles or fake news articles or whatever.
Yeah, and it's gotten to that point. It's gotten to the political climate. Like, are you be familiar with The Onion? The Onion is right. Like, it's gotten to that point where I'll headline on my Facebook feed and it's from The Onion, and I'm like, well, that doesn't surprise me. Like, it's gotten to that point where a headline from The Onion, or not. Like, I'm like, oh, that could be true. And then I'm like, oh, it's The Onion. Okay, it's The Onion. Never mind.
Yeah.
Like, The Onion used to be like unabashedly satirical, like, and it still is, but we're so like just far-fetched and amazing and hilarious that I'm like, that's hilarious, that's great. But now it's got me where like The Onion is talking about President Trump or Pence or something, and I'm like, well, that wouldn't surprise me. Oh, what else did he? Oh, wait, that's what? That's The Onion. Are you sure not turning into a real news source right now? Because, but
almost, it really seems like in the political world, and it's been entertainment industry, but it's all flipped upside down.
There's this other thing. I keep saying this too, and this is like a Harry Potter reference. And I was like, that's interesting. People were not. There are a lot of people out there that I'm finding who are not referring to President Trump by his name. They're just like, don't say his name, just 45. Just call him number 45. And I'm like, that's like a Lord Voldemort thing to do. Like, oh, just don't say his name. Yeah. You can't be afraid. Like, we can't be afraid of him necessarily because there's people are like, well, what was it? I saw a thing not too long ago. It's like Clinton got impeached for lying about like one thing. Like, that was the kicker. Then there was like, he lied about the Monica Lewinsky thing, and that was the kicker.
Under
it was
oath,
he's like, he lied about the one thing, and all of a sudden people are like, he's done, kick him out. And that was 20 years ago or what. And then there's just this constant spray of like just verbal diarrhea that comes from President Trump, and most of it is not true. So I'm like, we can't impeach him because he's just like, it's a fountain of just things that are not true. So how do we make this happen?
Well, and they would have to get him on trial for some reason, and then have him lie and then prove that it's a lie, and then impeach him. But actually, I mean, really what's going on right now seems really interesting, kind of with all the leaks that are coming out, and then also with John McCain and Lindsey Graham and a lot of the centrist Republicans kind of openly talking out against it. I could really see Republicans being like, okay, like, let's get rid of him, just get Pence in there.
I mean, and everybody, there are a lot of people who they want Trump impeached, but then it's like, okay, well, how do we deal with Pence?
Yeah. Pence scares me a lot worse. Actually, I posted a thing today on Facebook on the Punk Rock and Politics page asking, what dystopian book is the most accurate. 1984, Brave New World, Fahrenheit, and then the Bridesmaid Tale. And someone posted that they're like, if Pence becomes president, Bridesmaid's Tale. Like, I don't know if you read that novel. They're making a new movie or a show on Hulu, but it's very patriarchal, conservative world, dystopian world. So I'm like, wow, that is funny. Totally true.
And the thing is too, like, I don't and I share the same concerns with most of my peers as far as like, well, what happens if Pence gets into the president seat? He doesn't have the same clout that President Trump has. Getting people to like rally on his side, I don't think would be as easy. It wouldn't be as easy. Like, he doesn't. Most of these vice president candidates that come into play for a lot of these elections are people that I'm like, I don't know who that is, or when you research them, you're like, okay, that's really interesting. Because think back to when Sarah Palin was the vice president candidate, and everybody's like, well, who is this?
Like,
oh, she was the governor of Alaska. Okay, that's a little weird.
Right there by John McCain,
Yeah. So I just, I'm not I'm concerned.
Well, no, I think you're totally right about the whole dictator, like, and that whole like TV persona that Trump has. He's definitely like among his crowd. However, he doesn't know how the law works, and he's just passing things. And we saw with the immigration ban, it got struck down. See, whereas Pence, I think he would take his time and be more methodical and actually pass something
right
that would stay.
Yeah, and that is always the concern, because you would you try to keep the people kind of out of the loop.
Definitely. So what's another issue you're thinking Trump's going to bring up?
I'm interested to see what President Trump is going to do as far as like the gun control thing goes. I know that a lot of right wing, the conservative people have like a super hard on for for their guns, which I'm like, my family was anti-gun growing up, so it was. My even getting nervous. My mom like, well, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. It's a gun, and wasn't allowed to play like first person shooters on like my PlayStation growing up, whatever. She goes, no, you can't play that. I don't like that. It's too violent or whatever. And I didn't I get it. Like as an adult, I get it now, and I'm like, yeah, that's a bit much. And like I hear about some of my friends who have kids who are like 8, 10 years old and are playing Call of Duty, and I'm like, good Lord, what are you doing? Yeah. Like obviously, like I have no say. It's their kid or whatever. But when President Obama, there was actually one of the props for the Nevada ballot. This last thing was about closing the loophole for buying the gun shows. And that was one of those things again where like President Obama was about their gun control laws. Everybody who loved their gun heard it. Like Obama says, we're going to enforce stricter gun control laws. But what everybody heard was, they're taking my guns away from you. Like that's the thing. It's not like we're sending the Gestapo door to door and be like, give me your guns.
Well, not yet.
Well, I feel like
well, I know that's what I'm saying. We're kind of heading down that path, Yeah, I think everyone sees things black and white. And that's kind of what you're going with there. And that's a problem. People don't understand there needs to be compromise in a civilized society.
And I felt like that the stricter gun control laws, I thought that's like a pretty decent, like, hey, that's actually not a bad idea. All he said was like, you just close the loopholes on what can be classified illegal purchases.
I lived in I've been in California, and then I lived in Arizona, and I saw the two different gun laws in both states, and it's one super liberal, the other super conservative. California, right. It's a task to buy a gun, but out in Arizona, I mean, you just go to Walmart, pick it out, they'll run your name, 15 minutes later, boom, you're out the door. Yeah. And at first, as a, super liberal, when I moved out there, it was terrifying. I would go in to the Circle K, and then the person in front of me would have a gun on their hip, and I'm like, oh shit, this person's gonna rob this place. But no, they didn't rob them, but then they just have guns. Everyone has guns on them in Arizona. To my surprise, no. I mean, it was pretty safe for the most part, but, so I got looser on my views as far as me as being a conservative, conservative gun views. I'm more liberal with them. But it's interesting how living in one state and then you go to the state, and it's night and day of how that works. Yeah.
I mean, I'm really curious to see what President Trump is going to do about that whole thing.
See, if they were intellectually honest, I would say no. Guns should be a state rights issue, and each state should be able to do what they want. But I mean, no party, no politician is intellectually honest these days, sadly. So I'm sure we'll do something. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, let's wrap this up a little bit. We've covered quite a bit, Trump and guns, and it's awesome. But so Jeff, let everyone know how they can find your band, All the Rage, your music online.
Well, we've got our record, Everything I Couldn't Tell You, is available on all major digital distributors, and too, we have streaming services too on Spotify and Apple Music, and pretty much everything else. On our Facebook page, you can find us at All the Rage LV, as in Las Vegas.
Definitely. Well, hey Jeff, thanks for coming on Punk Rock and Politics.
It definitely was my pleasure. Hopefully we'll do the same.
Definitely. So on our way out, we're going to hear one more by All the Rage. Here's Everything I Couldn't Tell You. It's the title track off of their album. Here's All the Rage. Check it out.
Everything I couldn't tell you, the words, they burn as I fall upon my knees. Everything I couldn't tell you, my heart, it hurts, and my mind is not at ease. But
decided I'm going to introduce a new segment. It's going to be called Open Mic's Last Call. It's going to be at the very end of the show, just kind of recapping either what's going on with the podcast, or I'll talk about future episodes or tease cool things that are going to happen. But basically, I want to use this little time, or I'll use it to rant about some politics or some issue that's really bothering me that I can't really do like I was planning on doing, or I really wanted to do, because I want to highlight the bands more in the previous section. And also, if they're saying something that I don't agree with, I don't want to, I'll correct them, but I don't want to go off on a rant and take their time. So, that's what this whole time is going to be for, is for my rants and just updating the whole podcast and everything. So as far as today's segment, I'm going to use this Open Mic's Last Call segment today to basically address the glitches and everything that's been going on. Everything was working fine with the Skype recording until the last couple interviews. So once again, I have to apologize to Jeff Strong again this last interview, and then again to Skylar of Trapdoor Social from the last episode number 8 with all the glitches. I had to edit the episodes pretty heavily, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to just scrap the interviews because I thought there was still enough good content in them to put out, and I wanted to promote their music. But I'm definitely aware that the glitches and everything is just unacceptable. It's almost unlistenable. So I'm going to fix that, and I'm getting new equipment that will be addressing that. So some more hardware. I really didn't go into this thinking it would be super expensive, but here I am. I'm putting more and more money into it because this is something I enjoy, and I really didn't think I would have this good of a feedback from a lot of the bands, or even be able to find enough bands to do interviews once a week to put out for everyone. But I'm actually booked up for this month and next month with almost 2 to 4 interviews every week with bands. So I have a lot of backlogged interviews with bands that I'm really excited to put out. There's some really cool bands that I'm going to put out. Some even you guys are going to be able to hear. Some are really hardcore, some are more poppy, some are more straight punk, and that's one other thing that I did want to address is the whole thing with the type of music. Here we're going to play every kind of music is welcome here on Punk Rock and Politics. Just because we're called Punk Rock and Politics doesn't mean we're only a punk rock show. That's just kind of more of the attitude, and just, an awesome title, and basically a little tap of the hat to NoFX, one of my favorite bands, and their line, it's at the very beginning of the podcast, where it's, if you think punk rock doesn't mix with politics, you're wrong. So thank you, Fat Mike, for that line and giving it the title for the podcast. So as far as the glitches and everything, I'm getting those fixed, and then we're going to get those all addressed, and we're going to get some new hardware and move forward. So basically, thanks for everyone for sticking with the show so far. If you're new listeners, you can go back and listen to some of the older shows. That's definitely not an issue. That has been an issue, so it's not going to be an issue going forward. I strive for perfection on every episode, and I want every episode to get better, and mainly not just for myself, but for the listeners and also for the bands, because I want to put this platform out each week for a specific band, and I want the platform to be as awesome and as well edited as possible. So I want to have a good quality thing to offer people and offer musicians and activists and also the listeners. So here we are. This is episode number 9. So I've been doing this for 9 weeks now. Started the very beginning of 2017, and I'm loving every bit of it. I hope people who are listening to the podcast are enjoying this. We're not stopping. We're not going to slow down. We're going to keep going. Like I said, I have tons of bands already booked for future interviews, and I also have a few banked interviews for future shows, and I also have a lot of shows, like actual concerts that I'm going to go to some bands, and some bands are doing some pretty amazing things when it comes to politics and the world of politics and what's going on. So I'm really excited to bring a lot of this stuff. So please come back every week. If you can, share, whatever link you listen to this, whether it's YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Facebook, whatever it is, like, subscribe, or share, or if you can rate it on iTunes or Google, that always helps us, and it also helps the artists in the future. So, well, I gotta wrap this up because I don't want this to be too long here. This needs to just be a little rant, but basically, here's to everyone to week number 9, and let's have a bunch more weeks, and this is just the beginning, so we have a long way to go, and I'm really excited to start this little journey, and I'm happy to have you here along with me at the beginning and get to you're experiencing the growing pains of the podcast with these glitches and these minor technical difficulties that we're working through. They're growing pains. They're definitely growing pains, and we're gonna work through it, and everything's gonna be great. And like I said, I can't wait to talk about some politics with some awesome punk rock and pop bands and rock bands and hip-hop artists, and I really want to get a country band in here, or a folk band, or definitely some like really awesome folk punk band. If you know a folk punk band that like has distortion, like distortion, and they also have a banjo, and yes, email me please. I want a folk punk band on here. That would be pretty awesome. So let's wrap this up, but thanks so much. Thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics, and this was Open Mic's last call. Thanks for checking out Punk Rock and Politics. If you enjoyed the show and the information brought to you, please subscribe and share the podcast. It helps us here at Punk Rock and Politics, but more importantly, it helps the featured bands gain exposure. Also, if you know any bands or musicians who would like to join the political mosh pit and have their music featured on the Punk Rock and Politics podcast, please email us at punkrockandpolitics@gmail.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. And rock on, political junkies.
I think our society is run by insane people for insane objectives.
Doing a better job of talking to each other. The left hand now knows what the right hand is doing.
Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.